Tomb Raider Chronicles. You know, this was one of those rush titles. It was initially released in November of 2000. And it wasn't initially planned. See, Eidos was loving the money that was coming in from the Tomb Raider games. And when the crew worked on the fourth game, they're like, this is it. Hence why Lara appears to die in it. Well, Eidos told them, basically, told Core Designs that, or Core Designs, one of the two, basically said, no, we're not ending this. We want more games. So two teams were basically working on two different games. This is the one that came out first. This actually came out in like November 2000. And it's to act as somewhat of a segue between, to a degree, a segue between Tomb Raider and Tomb Raider, well, Tomb Raider Last Revelation and Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness. The basic story for this game is people are mourning her apparent passing, while Von Croy, now repentant from everything that happened, and him being possessed by Set, he basically is searching for her. I mean, he has a right to be, he should be repentant. And so, what we have is Winston speaking with two other individuals, one of which was initially supposed to be the Genevieve, or I think that's how the name was pronounced, but was replaced due to too many similarities to an actual real archaeologist. And a preacher that was a friend of Laura's. Was a friend of Winston's as well. And you basically have them relaying full Earth stories. And each story actually focuses on a different element, so to speak. And how it works out. The first story tells of her doing a mission, possibly for the church, possibly not, in Rome. She is seeking out the Philosopher's Stone. This is your more traditional Tomb Raider type adventure. The level is 3 stages, some overlapping of sections of stages. And I swear there's some mysticism in this one, because of where Lara ends up. And so Lara is running around Rome. However, she has apparently a meetup with, at the opera, with Pierre from the first game, as well as Larson. So this basically places this game before the first game. Now, I say this is questionable because apparently it does appear that Larson and Pierre die in this story due to the encounters. I mean, they're running around Rome. She's running around Rome, basically finding mystical artifacts and mystical strange devices. I mean, there's a floating centurion head that you gotta shoot the eyes out of. And there's some living statues you have to fight. And so you are basically working your way through this level, trying to gather these 4 stones to get access to the Philosopher's Stone. You're almost about able to get it when, well, you get dropped down a shaft and into another more ancient type thing, and there's centurions running around, tigers, lions. That's why I say there's some sort of mystical element to this. There's also some nice little humor in it. I mean, Laura at one point slides, grabs hold of a ledge as she's sort of stuck. And Pierre has somehow gotten in there after her, and he's able to help her up. But he wants the object. Of course, she doesn't. She promised not to lay a finger on him. She gives him a good boo, and he stumbles backwards, and he's sort of hanging on for dear life, losing his grip. Little help? Laura, I'm honoring our deal. I wasn't going to lay a hand on you. And he apparently falls to his death. This is why I say this is somewhat iffy, because then again they're back they were back in Tomb Raider 1, which is set. And if you remember, Pierre dies in Tomb Raider 1, and so does Larson. So, it's kind of hard to tell, but this is a story being told. Pretty much all these levels are basically in media res. So as you work your way through this first one, you eventually do get the Philosopher's Stone. I should also note out that this game has returned to the 3 secrets per level that was common in Tomb Raider 2. It also has somewhat of a boss battle in that second level, which, well, let's face it, there's almost always a big boss battle at some point in a Tomb Raider game before the game actually ends. After obtaining the Philosopher's Stone, we move on to the next story, which tells of an espionage into to a Russian facility. Apparently, one of the mafioso, high-level mafioso or Russian mafia man, has gotten a admiral under his control, and they are taking a submarine to find the Spear of Destiny, because apparently it was claimed before and caused a ship to sink, so they are trying to retrieve it. So Laura sneaks aboard the ship, sneaks into the facility, gets aboard the ship. This is a little bit more stealth and little on the stealth, more on the action. I mean, obviously you have to take out characters when you don't necessarily have weapons. That's at a certain point. I mean, if you're going to if they're going to capture you, they're going to make sure you don't have weapons. But you do eventually get your weapons back. This is actually the only one that has technically 4 levels. Because for a portion of the one level, you actually have to swim around in a suit outside, and eventually, after you find the Spear of Destiny, something happens to the suit, so you got to rush back to the sub. That's after, of course, you had escaped from your captivity. And eventually, when you get back, the mafioso's like, I've got the... Doesn't listen to the warning Lara gives, and boom, 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 the sub is now sinking. So Lara now must escape. She wants to take the Admiral with her, but the Admiral is very adamant that he should go down with the ship. At least he can do right by that. It's unclear if she managed to get the Spear of Destiny back, but it's also too powerful for anyone to truly have. So as she escapes the sub, it's secure. Mission basically complete, preventing these very nasty people from getting the Spear of Destiny. And then we move on to the story of a young Lara. See, the priest had been called by Winston about something going on an island, and so the priest is going to check it out. Of course, they're discussing this just as Laura's about to head to bed. As we almost get her, in the movie, it's like the full motion video before that part of the story begins, where you would play. She is shown literally starting to undress. You don't see anything because one, this is of course teenage Lara, and two, it's like she starts and then she hears the talking and stops before taking anything off. So she tags along. This is one of the most supernatural levels that I've seen, or supernatural stories I've seen in one of the Tomb Raider games at this point. Well, aside from the set, the whole thing was set in the last Revelation. But as this is young Lara, you have no weapons. You cannot defend yourself from any creatures that you will encounter. This is more wits, more brains. You actually have to outrun some monster in a maze point of this. You have to solve puzzles and rotate things and get items. Because the main problem is a demon on the island. Which eventually, as you're working your way through, captures the priest. But he cannot leave the island, running water. There is a spirit or a ghost or a condemned man in a tree that you have to find his heart and burn also the tree. You got these little imp-like creatures running around that you can't kill, but they'll hurt you. I mean, the only thing you can really find, aside from stuff to help you defeat the supernatural creatures, is literally med packs and secrets. And you eventually win. Once you get this tome that actually has the creature's name in it. And because Laura calls out its name, reads the right spell and calls out the right name, she now has control over it. So basically, you are stopping the supernatural entities there. Now, I should say this. The previous story, and I forgot to mention this, is most likely set between TR1 and TR2. This story is set way before. Probably a little after the events, the prelude event, the um, tutorial level events in Last Revelation. After that and before the main events. Now, after that whole story happens and plays out, they then see the artifact that caused the animosity between Laura and Werner. And that is the Iris artifact. This is the same artifact that you see him going after at the end of those tutorial levels in Tomb Raider Last Revelation, where he gets stuck and his leg gets injured. Well, apparently, I guess something about the device which allows teleportation, he was able to get it and get out with an injured leg. And so, his father's company, Von Croy Industries, is harnessing it in its bid to create super weapons and new technology. So Laura has snuck into Von Croy Industries. A bit of corporate espionage and stealth, and a more trying no weapons section to reclaim the Iris. She has an assistant, Zip, basically feeding her information over the comms. This combines everything you've learned in the game, and it's also probably one of the most buggy sections of the game, which shows that this was rushed to get out the door. I kid you not. I've never seen so many bugs as I played through that. And I heard that the that Angel of Darkness was supposed to be buggy. So I don't know on that one. I haven't gotten far into it as of yet. I mean, I've only recorded like 2 videos of it so far. At least the time of this recording. But as Laura runs through Von Croy, she goes through a section without her guns, where stealth is of the essence. I mean, you could choose to knock people out. Why they have chloroform in their offices, I do not know. Laura is sneaking about. You actually have to watch a guard input a code, and it changes each time he goes by it. Which is actually good security in my book. You have to run around without a weapon. Because if you want to get the secrets, you actually have to do certain things. You got a ventilator shaft that has an explosion set up in it, which makes it some weird security. Honestly, totally weird security in this place. Lasers are in the vents. Well, I guess that's supposed to be something reasonable. You encounter these men in these ultra powerful suits that you really don't have a chance at killing them in, so you have to basically run. You have a chambers filling with a dangerous gas in one of these levels. You need to fetch a harpoon gun and do rope swings on that. You have a room where you have to take out a cyborg, but to do it, you literally have to, I think, injure him to a certain point, and then fill the room with water, causing him to short out. But if you go in the water, you're going to get killed. So, it's tricky as all get out. This is a level that will test your patience. It'll test everything. And it hurts that it's so buggy. Of course, after the last story, we then conclude with Von Croy and his men finding Laura's backpack, but not Laura, which is a sign to him that she is still alive. And that is where we end Tomb Raider Chronicles. Now, this was using apparently like some unused level ideas for other games that wouldn't make the cut. So it makes sense to a degree. And the fact that they were pushed into this or forced into this, so they got sort of rushed. So as well, one team's working on one project, they needed this interim project because they figured the fans were not happy that Lara was apparently dead, which in fact, yeah, they weren't. Like I said, I might have said this in one of my prior videos, or even in the one about Last Revelation, I would not imagine them doing something to kill her off with her being such a hit. But when you have people who's not thrilled working on the project anymore and they're getting tired of it because of what it's become, I can't necessarily blame them for wanting to kill her off. And they didn't want to go a quote reboot route. In some ways, reboots weren't even a thing yet in 2000. And you wouldn't want to do a reboot for a game that's only a franchise that's only 3 to 4 years old. At least not a game franchise. Doesn't make sense. I mean, you could do an updated version with better graphics, but it doesn't make sense to do a complete reboot. It's a decent game. For the Tomb Raider enthusiasts, it's a true Tomb Raider game. And it's decent. I mean, there are people who speedrun the game. And they do these, like, no loads, no meds challenges. or no load, sometimes no loads, no meds, all secrets. Even throwing in there all items. But with the bugginess that can happen, and this is part of why saving can be very risky in the game, you have to be careful because of those bugs. It is easy to soft lock. But like I said, for some who really never liked Angel of Darkness, they don't even want to consider it canon, but it is. But for those who are die-hard, about the original games, they will not necessarily include Angel of Darkness. They would say that the series ends right there. But there are those of us who know of the books. And there are 3 books that act as a segue as well. So I won't go into them right now. I'm going to save those for when I get to the whole Core Designs timeline as a whole. Next time I talk about a Tomb Raider game, it's going to be Angel of Darkness. I hope you have been enjoying listening to me talk about this game. And hopefully next time round, well, next one of these might be a way off. But thank you for listening. If you are still listening, I do hope you subscribe and give to the channel and give this video a like. Have fun all. Bye.